over on Rumble. Of course, I do see that chat is working. Always a good thing. Mrs. Tag, ready to clank no matter the time. Lord Keck, aloha from Maui. It's almost 1 a.m. getting some clank action before sleep. Lucky me. I wish I was in Hawaii right now. I could go for some nice fresh seafood. Sounds pretty good at the moment. I'll be making tacos tonight, and I make them the authentic way, as in actual tacos, not the health food white person tacos that a lot of people make with the unfried wrap and unseasoned hamburger bullshit. I, Steve, then we will clank in the shade. Flyer Rod, good morning from Florida. Yeah, apparently a lot of people are talking about how there's smoke all over the eastern part of the United States. Of course, I'm in the Netherlands right now due to those Canadian wildfires. Anyway, we do have a lot to cover today. We'll be talking plenty about affirmative action. It's been effectively struck down by SCOTUS. Thank goodness, long time coming. Michelle Obama's pathetic reaction to the downing of affirmative action. We have to cover that. Donald Trump actually being mad at Milley. And I'd like to parse that apart because General Milley appears to have wanted to start a nuclear war over Iran. And I think that's a little bit more important than classified documents, so-called scandal. And of course, Erica Marsh and a few other things that we have to talk about. RFK Jr. destroying his own campaign, by the way, over the affirmative action issue, as well as guns. We'll be talking about that too. BW, new Alabama ruling was omen of more Harper ruling. Conservatives play fair. Democrats use 120 unfair advantage. Because of Alabama, Louisiana and Florida need to change maps. Whole South blue pointless. I don't think that will happen, actually. Their decision was more restricted and measured than it was on affirmative action. We're also waiting, probably today, we're going to get a decision, I believe, on student loan debt forgiveness. In fact, let me look that up live right now. This could be a big one. Supreme Court expected to rule on Biden's student debt relief plan on Friday. This one is harder to guesstimate with regards to which way they're going to go. I think I would give slightly better than 50-50 odds of a 5-4 decision against Joe Biden, which would cripple his administration, by the way, but it would give him a talking point for the subsequent election, assuming he is actually the nominee. Since RFK has torpedoed himself, and I have a feeling that a significant proportion of his fan base is going to flee now in the wake of a couple of the flip-flops he's made in the last 48 hours, Biden is pretty much a shoo-in unless he fucking croaks or he's incapacitated. But now he's on CPAP. He's probably retaining water. He has the dropsy, as the old timers would call it, and he has numerous other health issues. So, I don't know, 60% chance that he ends up nominee, I suppose. The other 40 is reserved entirely for health-related things. Oh boy, we're going to be talking about all this shit. All sorts of crazy shit going on in the world. I just like to say shit. You know, I've been indoctrinated into the ND6 meme. I can't help it. By the way, cross-platform in the description and at the top if you're watching on YouTube. Your last chance, probably. The stickmen are available. You see this little guy? You can get one for yourself with a certificate of authenticity, which has, by the way, again, been publicly notarized and signed by the artist. Number 003 cycled back in because there was a non-payment. And there will only ever be 28 of them made other than the one that I've got behind me. And again, I've got to query the artist about getting a signed certificate of authenticity for myself, for my own stickman as well. So 29 technically will ever exist as far as the official run goes. There will never be more of them. I'm probably going to work with him after these are sold in order to make a more unlimited run, maybe something that's signed, some sort of limited edition thing like that. But as far as those go, they've been asked for years and years and years. I can't even remember how many years it's been, 4 or 5 or something. And they are available. So yeah, may the bidding begin. It's an eBay link. So don't worry, there is buyer protection. BW, I don't understand. How is it limited? We'll be talking about that and much more in a short period of time. Cam2425IA over on Rumble. I'm going to go sit on a lake and celebrate America for about the next 5 days. Have a good one, Clankdom. Thank you very much and have fun on the lake. Catch some fish, make some sushi, and, have a good time. Fishing is something that I've enjoyed, but I'm not particularly good at. I will admit deficiency in fishing. I'd like to practice a little bit more. It's sort of, the casual man's sport or whatever. Not really a sport, but you drag up a perch or a bass or something. It could be fun. Hell, maybe I'll get good at it someday. I've got plenty of time left. I'm only 35, so there's time to add to my skill stack. And I suppose being able to haul up a couple of fish is probably a good idea for if we have a nuclear war. They might glow in the dark a little bit less than my leeks and other vegetables. Next news story, well, first one technically, affirmative action is dead in the United States. Supreme Court rejects considering race in college admissions, striking down affirmative action. This is, in my opinion, one of the greatest victories that we've had in a number of decades. Second, perhaps only to Bruen. The Bruen decision with the Second Amendment affects me, for example, more because I'm not trying to get back into college, so I don't have to worry about that. As far as personal effect, Bruen is more for me. As far as the future generation not having to go over the race hurdle, the racist hurdle of the far left, their id poll, I think this is one of the most meaningful decisions that's been made in a long time, along with the Dobbs decision. Now, again, on that one, because I am pro-choice, at least with certain exceptions, it's here and there for me. Bruen I supported completely. I wish they had even gone further. I wish they had used it to strike down the NFA. The only thing wrong with this decision is they didn't extend it to taxpayer-funded businesses. So if a business takes a federal grant or something like that, they shouldn't be able to use race in hiring quotas and things like that. However, as far as I'm concerned, it's a 9 out of 10. They did the right thing. It was a 6-3 decision, so it wasn't even particularly close. I like how they're saying, well, the conservative justices on the Supreme Court sided with discrimination and racism. No, actually, the conservative justices sided with one of the liberal justices on the Supreme Court, with Kavanaugh being, of course, the swing justice at this point, to end discrimination in college admissions. Good on them. It's been a long time. There have been so many challenges, and here's the problem. And most people, if you didn't take like a higher level civics course, you probably don't understand this. Here's the way the court system works. A court has to agree, the Supreme Court has to agree to hear the case. The Supreme Court can simply decide not to hear the case at all, therefore not giving any form of guidance and letting lower court decisions, federal court, state supreme, etc., stand on their own merit. And this leads to, in some cases, a patchwork system where a state or a district might be deviating from the federal norm. While that's helpful in the sense that really under the 10th, things should be handled mostly at the state level and things should be devolved to the federal district level whenever possible, in some cases, there's a case that is too important for it to simply sit there and be a patchwork sort of thing. This is the case with Dobbs. It's the case with Bruen, and now it's the case with this particular decision with affirmative action. I agree with the decision. I think that it should have been even more broad, but it ticked all the boxes for me. I agree with the decision in general. And now colleges and universities, Harvard came out the other day, only hours after the decision, to say, well, we're going to look at ways to maintain diversity on our campus. By the way, another prediction fulfilled literally less than an hour after I made my original breaking announcement video on the topic. Harvard had come out to assure people, don't worry, we're going to look at ways to keep discriminating on a racial basis against white and Asian students because we want that ESG money. It was a low-hanging fruit to guess that, though, because it was obvious they were going to do such a thing. Ashley, if student loans get waived, they'll be considered worthless by a large number of the population. It's basically admitting college isn't sustainable. Well, it's not. Look at Australia. They instituted limitless amounts of college funding for students, and now they have a shit ton of people who have graduated but still work low-wage jobs simply because they just decided to educate them for absolutely no reason. They're in demand overseas, but not in their own country. Effectively, if the United States would have universal college for everyone, yeah, US students would be highly in demand. In other countries, they'd go and work in China. They'd go and work in Poland. They'd go and work in Nigeria. It's an attempt to globalize, really. Not everybody needs to have that extra 2 to 4 years of education minimum, or 6 for like a master's or something. Go to a trade school, get an associate's like a liberal arts associate's just to show, hey, you know, I've got a better command than average on, you know, English language, math, maybe I've studied a foreign language or something. Really, in a meritocracy, it should be about your skills, not about the piece of paper. So there might be somebody who speaks 7 languages, but never bothered to go to college. They simply are a polyglot, and they're held back by the current system that we have. It's similar to the US credit system. Did you know that the concept of credit from the United States, like, you know, you have to have a certain credit score in order to get a mortgage, a car, whatever, you know, loan, doesn't really exist in many parts of the world? In most parts of the world, it's more about, hey, you're not a criminal and you have a certain amount of income. Well, that's the way that it should be. The US decided to switch to the credit-heavy system mainly to spur growth. Has it spurred growth? Or has it really had no impact and it just holds a bunch of people back? Degrees can be useless. I'm not saying that it's bad to go to college. Of course, I went to UVM, which is a good, competent public school. It's considered public Ivy. I didn't do very well in my first year, but I was doing fairly well once I switched my major to something that made more sense based on my interests. I switched to anthropology and English, originally poli-sci, which I did well in, and biology, which under, plant biology, which at UVM really means chemistry. I'm not as good at chemistry. I wanted to go into the greenhouse and grow things. I wasn't interested in learning about molality and molarity and shit like that. So I mean, I had to drop out of that, of course. And then later on, of course, with a considerable number of credits to my name, a year from graduating, I dropped out of university, and I don't regret it whatsoever. If I could go back in time and correct one thing other than maybe not buying into Bitcoin, it would probably be that. I would have gone to Castleton and got an associate's while working my ass off editing literature and making YouTube videos. I'd probably be about where I am now, only I wouldn't have any student loan debt to grapple with. JRod80 sent $4.99. No comment, thank you very much. By the way, we'll be talking about YouTube stabbing all of its content creators in the back, or at the very least, preparing to do so as well. To those of you watching on Rumble, I very much appreciate the fact that you're doing that. And to those of you watching on YouTube, you should really be signing up for my material on another platform. We will discuss why later. There's a rumbling, a foreshock of something terrible that might happen to YouTube. It might go MySpace mode as the result of their stupidity. It's very sad to see, but we'll talk about that. Let's go briefly, though, to Michelle Obama's screed here. This is her response to affirmative action, which is racist, ending. Michelle Obama, I wanted to share some of my thoughts on today's Supreme Court decision on affirmative action. Michelle Obama, says the header in slightly 20s style text. Back in college, I was one of the few black students on my campus, and I was proud of getting into such a respected school. I knew I'd worked hard for it, but still, I sometimes wondered if people thought I got there because of affirmative action. A lot of white liberals probably assume so, Michelle. That's the whole fucking problem, but you apparently don't realize that. It was a shadow that students like me couldn't shake, whether those doubts came from the outside or inside our own minds. But the fact is this. I belonged, and semester after semester, decade after decade, for more than half a century, countless students like me showed they belonged too. It wasn't just the kids of color who benefited either. Every student who heard a perspective they might not have encountered, who had an assumption challenged, who had their minds and hearts opened, gained a lot as well. Well, I mean, that hasn't happened in a while. Professors don't dare to challenge the status quo. It wasn't perfect, but there's no doubt it has helped offer ladder's opportunity to those who, throughout our history, have too often been denied a chance to show how far they can climb. Of course, students on my campus and countless others across the nation were and continue to be granted special consideration for admissions. Well, there's the problem. That's why it's unconstitutional. Some have parents who graduated from the same school. Others have families who can afford coaches to help them run faster or hit a ball harder. Others go to high schools with lavish resources for tutors and extensive standardized test prep that help them score higher on college entrance exams. We don't usually question if those students belong. So often we just accept that money, power, and privilege are perfectly justifiable forms of affirmative action. I like how they're trying to now cast off the idea that a college that shows preference to the children of an alumni who has already proven themselves and been successful is somehow akin to government down affirmative action. Well, no, it's not. It has absolutely nothing in common whatsoever, but that's the screed that they're going with at this moment. While kids growing up like I did are expected to compete when the ground is anything but level. Yeah, but you made it unlevel. You made it unlevel by showing preference to people based on the color of their skin, thus violating the 14th Amendment. That's the whole fucking point. I like the bullshit that the left has trotted out with regards to legacy admissions. If it's a school, on one hand, I would agree with them. Having athletic scholarships simply because athletes with their overpriced sports stadiums that they build at taxpayer expense many times rankles me. But it's not the same as a protected category now, is it? By the way, I would point out that a very large proportion of those college athletes in certain sports happen to be black, especially within American football. But somehow it's racist. It's wrong in some way. So today my heart breaks for any young person out there who's wondering what their future holds and what kinds of chances will be open to them. And while I know the strength and grit that lies inside kids who have always had to sweat a little more to climb the same ladders, I hope and pray the rest of us are willing to sweat a little too. Today is a reminder we've got to do work not just to enact policies that reflect our values of equity and fairness, which are bullshit misnomers, but to truly make those values real in all of our schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods. If you are interested in supporting organizations who belong and have been advocating for this cause, check out, and then there are various, United Negro College Fund sort of things. Michelle, if you're talking about athletic admissions, you're talking disproportionately black students, especially with football and basketball. Those are big things in the United States. A little bit less for hockey, although fewer people give a shit about hockey. They probably don't even give you a scholarship for that unless you happen to be the incoming MVP or something like that. If you're talking about legacy admissions, since you've used affirmative action for so many years to artificially inflate the so-called diversity in schools, those are alumni too. Well, they're black, they're Hispanic, they're Native American. They're indigenous people, BIPOC or whatever. So what's the fucking problem? If they get preference, well, I mean, they're still black. They're still so-called Native American or whatever. They're still getting legacy admission status because they happen to have a parent there. And who gives a fuck about private schooling and whether somebody can afford to send their student there? I didn't get to go to a private school and get tutoring. My family comes from I'm white and straight, male, formerly Christian, now pagan. I didn't get the advantage of having a tutor help me learn a second language or something like that. I went to a public school. It was a good one where I was surrounded by other largely underprivileged white kids. That never helped me to get into a better school or earn more scholarships. Scholarships, dude, other than fucking need-based aid because my family was poor, I got butt-fuck nothing. There was no merit-based scholarship that was applicable. When I looked through that list, half of them were race-based. It was only for black students, only for female students. There was nothing for white males. There's no straight kids college fund. There's no United Caucasian college fund or anything like that. What the fuck are you talking about? From the top to the bottom, everything benefits certain groups of people, and none of them happen to be white males. If you're female, it's a little bit better. You get a little bit of an advantage. You get a little bit of a boost up. That's all you get. So cry me a fucking river. It's horse shit. Lots and lots of super chats, I believe, here. I must get to them if I may. We have Ozzy's Robots. Morning, my super chat courtesy of meritocracy. Well, thank you very much. James Flowers, I feel bad that I'm not at all interested in your stickmen. Maybe if they were littler and in different poses or die cast. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, those are things that we're thinking of too. There will be more available. By the way, the dryer has decided to start beeping. Wonderful, because it'll keep beeping until I press the little button. Ginormous Uber driver, red bars watching. Eric writes, have a soft spot for Michelle, but would never be interested in voting for her. Did she ever practice law? Curious if she ever represented anyone like Hillary did with that child-abusing monster. I believe she does have a high-level degree. She's not an unintelligent individual. Intelligent enough not to run for office, by the way. Ozzy's Robots, Michelle Ooh should fund Superchats here for equity. That'd be nice. Yeah, where's my money, Michelle? Awesome Diesel. Clank, clank. Good evening, all. King of Biltong. Good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. Yeah, go get your Biltong. Free shipping with code STICKS. That's what I'm talking about. Next news story. I'm going to ignore the actual news story itself because I don't give a fucking shit about it. It's why Donald Trump was so mad at Mark Milley that he confessed to a crime pertinent to the classified documents non-issue. And the sham indictment and the ongoing witch hunt against evil Orange Man. Here's what I was thinking about it, and I'm not the only one who has noticed this. Does anybody find it a little bit crazy that General Milley had an active plan to start World War III by attacking the Iranians, which are directly under the shield of Russia? Does anyone find it odd that Mark Milley was so brazen that he actually optioned this to Donald Trump himself, then the president of the United States? Hey, Donald, look, I've got a plan for you. Let's see. Here's what we're going to do. Step 1, bomb Tehran. You know, bomb Iran, like John McCain said. Step 2, get fucking nuked. Step 3, doesn't matter because it's little people that died. We'll be in a bunker. Everything's fine. Step 4, Trump Tower on the radioactive remnants. We will use radioactive metal to make it glow in the dark. We'll make it Art Deco style. It'll look really great. It'll look sort of like Minas Morgul or something. Step 5, I'm fucked. That's basically what Milley came forth and optioned to Donald Trump, or at least it seems. We don't have the actual document. There was an active plan by the U.S. government to strike the Iranians. Now, they're not a nuclear power, but they are directly allied with the Russians, which are a nuclear power. They were, at the time, the context is important here, they were also working directly to destroy ISIS at the time with the de facto blessing of the United States government under Donald Trump, because Donald Trump said, okay, we can keep doing the Syrian civil war thing, or we can allow ISIS to basically get completely wiped out. Probably the latter is a better idea. I remember when Obama came out and called him the JV team, right before they started parading through the streets with armored trucks and cutting people's hearts out and eating them on live feeds and enslaving people, destroying Libya in the wake of course, that falling to Hillary Clinton and her forces, et cetera, et cetera. Well, ISIS is now an afterthought. When's the last time that ISIS conducted a major terrorist attack outside of the third world? When's the last time that they bombed a train tunnel in Madrid, or they managed to fly into a building or anything like that? The Taliban now has control of Afghanistan. They're a bunch of Islamic nationalists. They're not willing to share power with ISIS. They've pretty much locked things down there. The one godsend to all of the equipment and money that was left behind by Joe Biden is the Taliban is better able to resist ISIS. Donald Trump did not start any new wars. What this shows me, more than anything else, the only thing that matters to me, I don't care if Donald Trump had a classified document. We can't establish that he showed it to anyone. We know that in his moment of bravado, he claimed that he did. He's claiming that it was literally just Time magazine covers. I actually believe him, by the way, on that one, incredulous as though it may sound. I think that was Trump's normal bravado that the liberals have complained about now for half a decade, but suspended the second that it happened in this particular audio clip we've been dealing with lately. I don't care about that. What I do care about is that a high-ranking general within Trump's team came to him and with a straight face, he said that it was a good idea to bomb Iran. I don't think it's a good idea to bomb Iran. I think that that's called warmongering, number one, and I think it would lead to World War III, number two, because it is a direct ally of the Russians. It looks an awful lot like the military complex was already gung-ho for war with Russia several years before the Biden stewardship began. And Trump said, no, I don't want, why the fuck would I want to do that? Yeah, let's irradiate everyone. So 90% of the population dies. I get to be the president of an ashen wasteland filled with nothing but fuck shit. Trump stood in the gap. He refused. Milley and others were apparently very much dead serious about this fucking plan. And it just shows more of the deep state apparatus in motion. That is the only thing that I care about with regards to these documents. Trump was optioned the concept that we should bomb the Iranians. Does anybody out there know how goddamn messy at the bare minimum that would get? You would at least have a regional war with repercussions for multiple nations within the region. You probably would end up in a NATO-Russian Cold War escalation that would get at least as bad as the Cuban Missile Crisis. It could go hot. You could have a legit, actual nuclear war as the result of that. Defeatism aside, from some people who say, well, if there's a nuclear war, I live in the middle of nowhere, I've got my own fallout shelter and plenty of Radex, so it's fine. Okay, that's fine, but you've got relatives who probably wouldn't be. They would be very much dead. Your hope is that they die in the nuclear blast and get vaporized and die instantly, like those poor saps on that fucking OceanGate sub, and don't suffer radiation poisoning and vomit themselves to death over the course of 3 or 4 days. Well, they decrepitate slowly and melt away like a slug that just encountered a block of rock salt. Well, while I like Fallout, real-life Fallout would be a little bit different. So, I mean, yeah, Trump was mad at Milley. No shit. If I were the president of the United States and a top-ranking general came forth and advised me that now is the time, we must attack this other nation that has precursor nuclear technology, is allied with a nuclear power, and is one of the linchpins of the entire Eastern Bloc, what would I do? I'd say, are you crazy? Have you flipped your lid? Lost your gourd? What the fuck is wrong with you? Go away. I'd tell him to go fuck off because it's a crazy idea. Donald Trump supposedly is the one that's crazy. No, Milley seems to be the one that was goddamn nuts. He should definitely not be part of the future Trump administration 2.0. Lambronius, Milley planned to tell Trump that we could conquer Iran and make Iran pay for it. I guess so. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, let's start a nuclear war. That'll be very helpful to the U.S. public. The only thing that would be helpful is if members of Congress didn't make it to the fallout bunkers, so the entire government got wiped out and cleaned aside, then people could rebuild. Okay, that might work. Unfortunately, they probably have fast transit to those bunkers, so some of the sleaze bags would actually survive. I'm sure Milley would make sure that he and his inner circle were among them. That's what worries me the most. People aren't even looking into this story deeply enough. A standing major ranked U.S. general literally wanted to attack the Iranians. We don't know exactly what the focal point of the attack was, how limited it would be, but that would be an act of war arguably against Russia. That's probably not a great idea. You see, they do actually have nuclear weapons, and apparently they are willing to use heavy force against people who fuck with them, as we see currently. I noticed that it was the second that Trump left office that Ukraine was invaded, by the way. Aussie's robots. If Trump were reelected and had loyal and competent DOJ, how many of these corrupt dirtbags and letter agencies and military would really be prosecuted? Some of them. It depends on the scale of their crime. You do have to prioritize. Next news story. This is a fun one. I talked about this somewhat this morning, but I wanted to talk about it again because it's amusing. Erica Marsh. This is supposedly a liberal commentator who volunteered for the Obama campaign. But it may also be a troll. And the internet can't really decide which is which. I know with community notes, they're trying to establish that this is a parody account. I'm doubtful of that. I think that the follow-up, actually, of what was said by Erica Marsh shows that it may actually be real. Erica Marsh tweeting the other day, in the wake of affirmative action ending, today's Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on Black people. No Black person will be able to succeed in a merit-based system, which is exactly why affirmative action-based programs were needed. Today's decision is a travesty. Now, Erica Marsh is effectively saying that black people can't compete with other groups in a system that is an actual level playing field. They're unable to compete with their white peers. They need us white liberals to give them a hand up, and then they should do what we tell them to do, because we gave them a hand, and so they're basically like our modern day slaves. That is officially the bottom line mentality of a lot of white liberals. I've met many of them. I pointed out that I went to UVM. It's groovy UV. There's fucking weed everywhere. Bunch of white kids acting black, et cetera, et cetera. That's what you got at UVM in the late 2000s, early 2010s when I was there. Very far left, at least in pretense, et cetera. Very woke or proto-woke. A lot of the shit that you see now with regards to, the green living thing, wokeness, pronouns, you saw at UVM more than a decade ago, for example. It was practically a pilot program for the same sort of bullshit, along with others, Stanford, et cetera. But in private, these people really do talk like this. And if you get them liquored up, they will become more and more racist, usually. I would know, because I drank some people out when I was at UVM, smoked them out, drank them out, etc. Had a good time partying, because that's basically all that UVM's good for. Plenty of drugs on campus. I'm really sorry that I violated your campus policies and broke federal law by possessing magic mushrooms and LSD and all of the other good shit and mescaline on your campus. Whoops, too bad the statute of limitations ended a long time ago. That was about 2009, so good fucking luck prosecuting me or punishing me in any way. Anyway, as far as this goes, it was funny. Also, there's a response here that's really funny by Adam Rumdies on Beat. Wasn't this your last tweet? Racist says what in all caps? It's a picture of Clarence Thomas and Erica Marsh saying, fuck you. Yeah, fuck that dude. And then somebody else weighing in on Biden's racial jungle remarks. Erica Marsh, it's not 100% clear that this is a real opinion. This may be an out-of-touch, gated community white liberal who genuinely is racist but is now ass-covering on her own racism, or it may be a parody account. We don't have proof one way or the other. Either way, it's hilarious as hell. This is either an admission statement by yet another NIMBYist white gated community liberal. Yeah, I'm racist. I think that black people should toe the line, do what I tell them. And, they can't compete under normal circumstances. They should applaud us for being advocates for them, which is basically the MO of the white liberal. Or it's a troll account, and it's one of the most successful trolls in Twitter history. So I tip my hat to Erica Marsh. If you happen to be a troll and this is disingenuous and you're trying to take people in, you really took them in. You got quite a haul. When you cast that net out into the ocean, you couldn't even lift it back up into the goddamn ship. There were so many fish in it. So congrats to you. If you are actually a white liberal who is confused, yeah, I don't have anything to tell to you. You've cell-phoned to the point where you're claiming that you want to hire a defamation lawyer because people are tweeting meanly at you. So quite a loss. It's either an epic win or an epic loss. It's Schrodinger's win. Orwell's Goon. AOC and Fruit Loop say 70% of Ivy League applicants were legacy and white. There's something else they had in common, but we can't talk about that. I do notice that is indeed mostly factual. Critical orc theory. No. Without affirmative action, hobbits will compete with orcs on even battlefields, and my joke donations will be pointless. Yeah, exactly. Level playing field bad. Because former playing field wasn't level, so we have to keep it unlevel in order to make it more level. That's basically what affirmative action boils down to. Sticky Marks, hiya from Yorkshire, UK. Lurv and Peas from Styx. Thank you very much. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, I joined the stream, and the first thing I hear is Styx saying, what the fuck is with you? Go away. To that I say, screw you, Styx. Just for that, I'm staying for the rest of the stream. So ha! My condolences. Kaiwan F8, total non sequitur, but if you had lost the glasses and added a headband, you'd be a dead ringer for the original bassist for Jethro Tull. I also get compared to Joey Ramone and John Lennon, actually. Bungle in the jungle, eh? Next news story. We have an epic loss right now. And I fucking warned people about this. Some of you are RFK Jr. fans. By the way, Clint from the Liberty podcast there, he has seen the light as well. Here's what Robert Kennedy said earlier. Regarding the Supreme Court banning affirmative action in higher ed, I know many Americans feel that purely race-based decisions are unfair. Well, they are, but however, this feeling misses important context. The effects of racist policies going back centuries are now self-perpetuating. Affirmative action understands this and uses race-based policies to undo the effects of racist policies, like affirmative action. Colorblind admissions tend to favor those who are already in the circle of privilege. It favors those who grew up in affluent, educated households. Wouldn't you like to invite in those who have been left out in the cold? No, RFK Jr., I would not. I do not want somebody working in a nuclear plant who's not qualified to work in a nuclear plant. I don't want somebody doing my taxes who is not capable of doing basic accounting. I don't want somebody editing a book of mine that doesn't understand the English language on a level commensurate with being an editor. Absolutely goddamn fucking not. I don't care if you think that it's bigoted. I don't give a shit about this privilege bullshit. There is no such thing as racial privilege in the United States or elsewhere. Well, in some parts of the world it does exist. Like, look at China. If you're of a different Asian group other than Han Chinese, yeah, you'll be discriminated against. You'll probably be trafficked. Oh, Filipinos? Subhuman, according to their official doctrine there. There are parts of the world in which that's a thing. The United States, by and large, ain't one of them. There will always be individual discrimination by individuals against others. There will always be the business owner that looks askance to hiring someone based on the color of their skin. At the end of the day, that's not the majority of the public, and it's a non-issue, and the attempt to address it in the taxpayer-funded educational apparatus runs afoul, as the Supreme Court found, of the 14th Amendment. It's cut and dry. It's very obvious. You can think that you're helping people, but that doesn't mean it's constitutional. This is the same argument that's made by anti-gunners. Well, let's think pragmatically here. We've got all sorts of gun crime in the United States. If we just took the guns away, there wouldn't be the gun crime. Well, that doesn't mean it's not. It's constitutional. Yeah, in your fever dream where you manage to bloodlessly get everyone to relinquish all of their firearms. So there's nothing, even an old 19th century black powder single action pistol has been banned. Everyone has given them up peacefully. Yeah, gun crime probably drops. Violent crime a little bit less so. But gun crime has been mostly eliminated, other than when it's perpetrated by the government or the police. That will become much more commonplace. But that doesn't make it constitutional. Affirmative action was ruled unlawful for a reason. It explicitly discriminates against people who are white or Asian on college applications. I want a total meritocracy. What I've pushed for now for years is blind enrollment. When a person signs up for a college, they should have a student number associated with them. Doesn't include their name. That's not searchable. Doesn't involve their gender. Doesn't involve their race. Doesn't involve their specific age. You know, somebody might have graduated a year early. Another person graduated a year later, something that could bias the people in admissions. It doesn't include anything except what's your SAT score? What's your ACT score? What was your grade point average in this particular school? And the school's name is redacted too, because otherwise, well, demographics between schools, those obviously are different as well. Yeah, you went to Malcolm X High School. I wonder what race you probably are. Hey, you went to, this school that's historically, you can Google it, it's 99% white. Well, probably you're white then. It's very likely. You went to one of those Chinese pilot schools. Well, you're probably Asian. Just score that out. Have the SAT, ACT, any other tests. What sort of extracurriculars that are accredited? So NHS, Key Club, etc. Were you involved with? Those were a thing in many schools. What AP courses did you take? What score did you get on the AP courses? Where are we going to give you credit or something? Okay, this student took 15 of them. That student took none of them. Well, there's a difference. We're going to weigh that in the application. You could have an entrance exam, with the hazard, of course, that students could, declare their race on them for those same purposes. They probably would do so for protest purposes if this were instituted. Blind enrollment. The school doesn't need to know who you are. They should just know who you are in a meritocratic academic sense, because that's the only reason they exist, to give room to people who have that merit on an academic basis in order to admit them and teach them further. That's all. This should be even the case with like trade schools and stuff like that. There shouldn't be in-person meetings between students and administrators prior to this process. Problem solved. You can't discriminate against anyone. There's nothing identifiable. All you have are a bunch of scores, a bunch of statistics. It's very, very dry, very, very raw. You know nothing further about the person. About the only thing that you could possibly add on top of that of any meaning would be if they've got a fucking criminal record. Oh, yeah, this person wants to go to bullshit university and they're 19 years old, but they've already got 3 felonies on their rap sheet that were expunged before. We might keep that in mind. That's the only thing. Blind enrollment. You cannot discriminate if you have blind enrollment. You would even score out clubs and extracurriculars that are based on gender and race and things like that. Then they would simply be a meritocracy. By the way, what would happen, according to liberals who think that black people need a hand up from them, from the white liberals at every possible hazard, then it should be an exact representation of the demographics of the United States. It should be basically exact, adjusted, of course, for income. There should be no discrepancy. It's blind enrollment. Nobody can discriminate. AP1S2K. I have so many guns. Guns, guns, shooty gun, gun. And guns are fun. Ozzy's Robots. RFK is a Trojan horse. Left-wing Dem, nothing more. I agree with you. But some people were taken in by the bullshit. He's also gone 180 on assault weapons. He now says... before he didn't support an assault weapon ban, assault weapon so-called, yes, I realize. Now he says, well, but if Congress were to sign off on it, I would sign it. Well, that's interesting. So if Congress decides that the Second Amendment is null and void, you'll sign off on it. Why? Because you're a fucking pussy? I was never taken by RFK Jr. He's the slightly improved version of Joe Biden. He's more coherent. He's clearly healthier. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to go on. He's less pro-censorship than Joe Biden. That's low-hanging fruit. Bara, even Alan Dershowitz is against affirmative action. Greg Palmer, the Biden admin is replacing diversity with adversity in its college admission buzzword glossary. Patriot Cairo, so much glow. FBI should change acronym to PatCon. Ozzy's Robots. Only ironic advantage of affirmative action is creating taxpayers. Seems these AA students come out salty and hating the country. Maybe that's the goal. Maybe so, Ozzy. John Diamond, good morning. I know you don't like talking about personal family stuff. Totally respect that, but you need to have more kids. The world has a fever, and the only prescription is more Hexenhammers. Well, I thank you for your affirmation of my genetic credentials. Helva XH834. Yeah, but AA wants the government to compensate for the poor choices of non-white students' parents and grandparents that adversely affected their upbringing and therefore performance. To them, that's leveling the field. Yeah, exactly. But there are plenty of poor white kids that have parents that dropped out of high school and, they had a kid at 14 or some shit like that. They're living in a trailer park. Apparently, they don't need a hand up. They're perfectly privileged based on the color of their skin. The Patriot Cairo orchestras used to do blind auditions. They're woke now. Yeah, they should always do that. Everything should be flying blind whenever possible with regards to jobs and admissions and shit. Desiccated corpse. Leftists obsess over race to patronize non-white people. Yeah, and then most of those leftists are white. Next news story, YouTube has decided to fuck everyone in the ass. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, if you're watching the stream right now, please do join me on some combination of Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, or Minds, because they might be about to commit Sudoku as an actual site. To the 2,400 people watching live on YouTube, this could be the final nail in the coffin. This could cause a mass exodus for real from YouTube. Normally, it's a trickling out of people, a temporary lull in interest or something like that. But when you hit people in their wallets, that's more meaningful than when you censor them. People care more about that than they do about people being silenced. YouTube is currently testing a policy with regards to ad blocking to deny people the ability to watch YouTube videos at all if YouTube detects an ad blocker on the platform. So if I'm going on YouTube, I'm looking up some music video, I've got uBlock, I've got AdBlock Plus, to deny me the ability to watch the video at all unless I get YouTube Premium. Now, for me, getting YouTube Premium, it doesn't matter. Okay, I pay my, what is it, 12 bucks a month or something in order to watch videos. Well, I mean, I use music videos as a jukebox for my daughter. She enjoys a lot of disco music and also 80s synthwave, which I find good. She jumps around on my lap and sort of dances to a lot of that, and retro wave and stuff like that. She doesn't really like a lot of other forms of music, although she is getting into classical music as well, which I find very positive. That's fine for me. That's perfectly fine. I'm using YouTube as a jukebox, get YouTube Premium, pay you your blood money, which doesn't go to any of the creators that actually I'm watching the videos of, but whatever. That's fine. Is that the case for a lot of users? No, it's not. A lot of the casual user base will flee the site. If they have to choose between watching 5 fucking ads in a row or getting YouTube Premium when there are other competing services that are cheaper, that's not going to be good. How does this affect somebody like me? As somebody who has never put ads on my videos ever on YouTube, I have never enabled AdSense for that purpose, only for the purpose of Superchats. I'll end up with subscribers leaving the platform, which means they're no longer watching the videos, they're no longer liking them, they're no longer sharing them out, they're no longer on the live streams, no longer sending Superchats because of nothing. Because I don't take any ads on my videos. The idea is, well, you're stiffing content creators out of their money. But if you pay us instead of the creators, it's perfectly fine. How the hell does this make any sense? And by the way, this will become a thing probably in short order, certainly before the 24 election. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, unless people have mass outrage. Contact your other favorite creator after Sticks, X, and Hammer and tell them that this is a thing. Send them the goddamn story and ask them to speak out against this. Now, the one thing I would point out is that this is not a 3 strikes policy. They're not threatening to ban you for using ad blocker on YouTube. There's no methodology by which they could reasonably get away with doing so. That would collapse the site overnight. What they're threatening to do is prevent you from watching videos if you do so. Now, there are workarounds. There will certainly be apps and add-ons that work around it as well. But it's just another goddamn inconvenience. And not everyone, not every Joe public understands that there are workarounds. I'm astonished by the number of people who don't understand basic ad blocking software. Well, if the average person doesn't even understand how to use AdBlock Plus or uBlock Origin or Ghostery or NoScript or something like that, how many more people are not going to understand the workarounds required for this kind of thing to be worked around? Hey, well, this ad it constantly changes your location, so YouTube doesn't understand that you've already watched your limit of videos, thus negating the ads and letting you instantly click through. Well, that's great to the people that know to download it. And I'll download it, and some of you may download it, but others won't. So thank you, YouTube. You will be destroying more of your audience. Congratulations to Rumble and to BitChute and to TikTok, ironically enough, for absorbing, 10-15% of your audience and screwing those of us who don't take ads in the process. Desiccated Corpse. If I start getting blocked from YouTube for using uBlock or AdBlock Plus, I'll simply stop using the platform. I predicted they'd try something like this. It's rather sad. Also, you can always just download the fucking videos anyway. Whether they block you or not, take the URL and put it in one of the thousands of download services and watch it anyway ad-free. I've done that. Do you think that I haven't downloaded a shit ton of YouTube videos? I've got hundreds and hundreds of them. Music videos, documentaries, independent commentary that I want to be there in case the channel goes down because it's from an edgy account. I've got Razorfist. I've got a couple of his Michael Jackson rants downloaded locally because you never know. YouTube could down the poor sucker tomorrow. Well, I'll still keep looking at his stuff online, but it wouldn't be on YouTube anymore. YouTube is doing everything that it possibly can to fuck itself in the ass. By the way, assuming that this goes through, Brave browser wouldn't help you. They will still block you because it'll detect that you're blocking the ads. I use Opera myself. I've got uBlock Origin, AdBlock Plus, and more. So I haven't seen an ad on the internet in years. Next news story, really quick. U.S. envoy for Iran has security clearance suspended amid probe into misuse of classified information. Yes, Rob Malley, Joe Biden's envoy to Iran. Speaking of Iran, you know, that country that Milley wanted to nuke, I suppose. The envoy to that nation may have accidentally misused classified intel in some way, shape, or form, and now no longer has security clearance. Joe Biden showing his excellent hiring skills, by the way, once again. Didn't this happen with, what was his name? Sam Brinton, the kleptomaniac who had access to secret material with regards to U.S. nuclear systems within the energy sector. Isn't that lovely? No, yes, absolutely wonderful. I've gotten used to at this point, I've gotten used to the Joe Biden administration, his stewardship being so dysfunctional. It's like, when something like this happens, it really doesn't surprise me. It surprises me more when we go a couple of weeks without Biden falling down, making a massive gaffe, like forgetting, where he is or something, or there's some sort of scandal in his so-called administration. I become surprised. And I'm like, well, maybe I should make a video after every week where that doesn't happen and say, okay, Joey had a good week. We're giving him a gold star. He had a good week this week. He didn't fall. He didn't make a major gaffe, a little stumbling over the words maybe, but he didn't forget his name or so poop his pants. And there was no major scandal because looking back through his so-called presidency, most weeks there is one of these things happening. Ashley, the lust for ad revenue is funny. Millennials and Gen Z are unresponsive to ads compared to boomers. All this nonsense for a system that doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why I've never taken ad revenue. I probably could have cleaned up quite a bit if I had. And I do take ad revenue on Rumble, but Rumble doesn't do this sort of shit. And BitChute in the future will probably have ad revenue and things. I'll take it on there. I'll help them with their sites and give them their cut. I'm going to do that with YouTube. They algorithmically throttle me anyway. At this point, I'm getting almost as much audience support on new tech as I am on YouTube itself. I have 500,000 fucking subscribers on the platform. That shouldn't be happening, but YouTube continues to screw me among many other users. So, fuck them. Lambronius, Milley planned to tell Trump that we could conquer Iran and make... I already read that one out. And make Iran pay for it. Read that a while ago. Why is it still there? Airman Today is now a monthly supporter over on Rumble. Well, congrats to you. You have a little castle thing that says that you are subscribed. I don't know anything about the monthly support thing. Does that mean you're paying me per month or, it's just a thing you click? I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look into it. Rockstar Podcast. You should have a Joe Biden accident counter. This many days without a fall. Yeah, but it would always read 0. So anyway, I think that I'm going to go offline at this time. It's Friday. Liz's mother is coming over and I'm making tacos. And again, I guarantee, don't worry, I make them the authentic way. It's not meant to be a health food, although it's full of vegetables and shit, and tomatoes and lettuce and onion and so forth. It's meant to be a little bit greasy, a little bit sloppy. It's just a little bit of fat in it, and it's tasty. That's the whole point. Tacos are delicious, but you got to make them the authentic way. Sometime I'll make a video of myself making tacos. I'll show you how to do it. I will mix my own spice blend, etc. It's going to be great. And also, last thing, King of Biltong is now also a monthly supporter. Again, I have absolutely no fucking goddamn idea how that works on Rumble. One thing Rumble needs to do is work on the format of its site slightly. And I say this as a fairly major user. I got 142,000 subscribers on the platform, so I think I'm allowed to weigh in a critical manner too. Rumble's great. Their search could be tweaked a little bit. Other than that, a lot of it people say has to do with the app. But you should join me anyway over on that platform and or others, BitChute, Odyssey, Minds, etc. Because YouTube really, it's got some fucking problems at this point. Riona Sarah, I have a taco for you. It's probably not as good as the ones that I make, though. A lot of gringos, they won't even cook the shell. Like, they'll heat it up on the pan, but it's not fried or anything. So it's like it's lightly charred. Okay, it doesn't taste bad, but then they also add, like, unseasoned hamburger to it. This is the sort of tacos I had when I was younger. I love my mom. I really do. She's very good at cooking many things. Tacos, though, I am superior to... well, basically anyone I know other than actual Mexicans down in southern Texas as far as tacos go. Yes, there will be a lot of seasoning. It'll be a little greasy. It'll be drippy and you know, it'll look very exotic. Many colors in a taco. No pink in those tacos, though. That's about all. Peace out.